Hello, I am Addison Morris with the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, and this is Cannabis Clip Notes with Daniela Williams. Daniela is the Chief Growth Officer at Paylient, a PEO built for the cannabis industry. With nearly 2 decades of experience in HR and compliance space, Daniela has made a career out of solving the complex, overlooked problems that can make or break a business, especially when it comes to people. She's held leadership roles across some of the country's top employment organizations, including the VP of Sales and Marketing at XMI, where she helped scale the business from a small referral only PEO into a high revenue, growth focused company with a full sales and marketing division that resulted in the acquisition by G&A Partners. At ADP Total Source, she began in sales and advanced to managing top performing teams in California. She also spent time at Salesforce, honing her ability to spot what business owners really need to grow and scale compliantly. Daniela is working to level the playing field for cannabis companies and the employees behind them. She brings bold leadership, deep knowledge of employment law, and real world grit to the work of helping cannabis businesses grow with confidence. Because at the end of the day, she feels that it's the employees in this industry that deserve the same support, benefit, and respect as any other workforce. And Daniela is here to make sure they get it. The cannabis industry is high risk with even higher stakes. So, Daniela, could you please talk about getting HR right in the cannabis industry?
Absolutely. And, this isn't always the most sexy of topic, but it's definitely a critical one. And I'm excited to talk about it today. So let's talk about why is this important? Cannabis is a very highly regulated, very scrutinized industry. We are still at its infancy in terms of comparatively speaking to other industries. And so we need to make sure that we're doing things right. All these business owners are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into these companies, trying to make sure that they're being compliant on the operational side and that they're doing things the right way. And we're really growing to professionalize. And that means high risk, but there's high stakes. And so, how do we get things right in cannabis? So today we're going to talk about a few things that are on the agenda. We're going to talk about the compliance blind spot, what employee compliance actually means, what am I talking about when I say employee compliance, breaking down the employee life cycle, and really HR experts and why they're essential. So what I've really noticed, and I've been in human capital management and PEO and the HR and compliance space, as you heard Addison say, for many, many years. And stepping into cannabis, what I found is that there's such a high regard and focus on compliance, but mostly on the operational side of the business. And what we're failing to put our focus and time on is understanding that that does not equal employee compliance. And what do I mean by that is there's two pieces to your business, right? There is the operational side. And then once you have an employee and a W-2 employee at that, there's a whole boatload of compliance, labor laws, and requirements that a business owner, the C-levels and management are supposed to be doing, not only to protect the business, but protect the employees and really insulate themselves from risk. If we don't do these things, then what's going to happen is these business owners are going to be fined. They're going to be receiving violations. They might lose their license and everything that everyone has worked so hard to do. So we really need to talk about taking the spotlight and sharing that with the HR and employee side of the house. And let's talk about what that looks like a little bit more. So acronym overload here, and I like to call this alphabet soup. There are over 120 HR regulatory agencies and laws that companies are supposed to comply with. And the fact of the matter is the government does not care if you didn't know, if you were unaware, if you just didn't realize. It doesn't matter. They don't give you a book of instructions when you open a business or hire an employee on everything you're supposed to be doing. So these acronyms become very overwhelming and also very confusing. Let's break down a little bit of where these acronyms go, what are they, and why are they important. So let's take a step back and start at the beginning. So once you have an employee, there's an entire employee life cycle that comes with that employee, whether you have one employee or thousands. There is a whole stage and journey that they go through, but they're mostly broken into 7 stages. So you'll see it starts from onboarding all the way through to separation. And within that, you have payroll, workplace safety, OSHA compliance, HR and employee relations, regulatory compliance, benefits and 401k. And within each of these phases, there are requirements. So there's some that are required, some that are nice to have. And the crazy part is that they vary not just by state, but by county. So there's different rules for county, state, and federally. And let's look a little bit deeper. What does that mean? So the first one is going to be HR, which it's very overwhelming. And there's a lot of bullet points on here, and we're not going to go into each one, but I want to highlight some pieces of this. So from an HR standpoint, from the very first thing you do to attract an employee is a job description. Most people don't realize that even that has legal requirements. The ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I'm going to give you just a couple examples, not to overwhelm everybody, requires certain things. The job descriptions have to be written in such a way that it not only provides the basic job duties, but the physical components so that there's no chance for discrimination. And that is a real major piece that even, I would say, some established businesses aren't realizing. Next, you go into interviewing. Well, there's a long list of questions on what you can ask, what you can't ask, how it needs to be phrased, how you can word it, all the way through to how you can give a disciplinary action, when you can give disciplinary action, when you can fire someone, when you can't, all the way through separation, where you are in your best interest to understand why are they leaving, are there things you can change, and then is a business at risk for future workers' comp claims or an employee lawsuit. Each state even has its own requirements on what happens at offboarding. In some states, you have to give someone a paycheck in hand the last day. Some it's 3 business days, some it's a week. So I say these little nuances because there are so many of these just in the HR section. And then you lead into workers' comp. With workers' comp, there's so many risk and safety requirements. And a lot of people think that OSHA, for example, which is a governing body within the risk and safety area of the business, is only really there if you're offering a manufacturing facility or cultivation, but that's not the case. You have requirements whether you have one employee in a dispensary or an office job, or you are doing an MSO, or you have a cultivation business. There's OSHA 300 logs, which are things that have to get posted in the employee break room. And if someone's remote, it has to get sent to them, that discusses if there were any injuries or illness that happened in that last time frame of the year for that business. And even if there's none, you have to post it. There's labor law posters. There's lockout tagout programs for machinery in manufacturing environments. There's ergonomic responsibilities and dispensaries, and plenty more. When you get to benefits, so if you're under 50, you're not required to offer benefits to your employees. But if you are going to offer them, you have to comply with a lot of components. If you're over 50, you do have to offer them. And then at the end of the year, you have to do certain documents like a 1095. And then you have to make sure that there's no discrimination testing happening in the way that you're giving your benefits and the way that you're doing your contributions. So there's a lot of pieces there. And then payroll, there's a ton of payroll reporting. There's employer taxes, there's employee taxes, there's wage garnishments, there's different laws, whether you're offering a PTO policy. I know in California, as an example, only because that's where I'm originally from, every county has its own laws. So in some counties, you have to give 3 days, and some you give 5. Everything varies so much. And why does this matter? Because look at this screen. There are so many touch points on here. And what I can tell you is that nobody decided when they were going to open their business that they were doing it because they want to learn HR, they want to learn risk and safety, they want to learn payroll law, they want to understand the ins and outs of offering benefits. Their passion was their business or their products, followed then by their needs and desire to enjoy their employees that they work with. But by doing that, you have to then understand that you're required to do these things. And since no one got into their business to become an expert in this, then you're left with a choice. Either do something to comply and insulate yourself from the risk that's associated, or don't, and eventually deal with those consequences. And those consequences, again, could be employee lawsuits, which are very expensive. They can be any sort of violation or fine. You can have a regulatory body like ICE or the ADA or OSHA come into your business and look for things that don't even have a designated fine component to it. They can charge you whatever they want based on however that auditor is feeling. When building a business and operating a business, you have to take the appropriate steps to protect what you're working so hard to build. You also want to protect your employees, because happy employees equals retention. That equals more revenue and a desire to not have any sort of bump or distraction from your business operations running consistently, effectively, and productively. So how do you do it? Paylient is here for you. We are experts in all areas of the employee life cycle. We offer services from the beginning to the end: recruitment services, payroll, HR, regulatory compliance management, workers' comp, risk management, training and development, benefits, and payroll tax reporting. And the best piece and the best thing about Paylient is that we're customizable. So if you only need some of those, we're going to work with you. We were created from passion because our founder, our head of risk, and myself all have personal journeys with the plant that have made us realize the importance of wanting to serve this community, serve the employees, give them access to things that they have not had access to, and help business owners professionalize, continue to grow. And to do that, you have to be partnered with the partners who are going to be watching out for you. We have a vested interest because of the PO relationship, which we'll get into in the next series, to make sure that your business only has to worry about what its job is there to do, which is meet your clients' needs, meet your internal and external customers' wants, and make sure that you're delivering on your values, your mission, and most importantly, making money. I would love to spark up a conversation with you. Please feel free to scan this barcode. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My cell phone is listed as well as my email. Let's talk about how we can partner for your clients and your business and what we do to protect you.
Oh, thank you so much, Daniela, for packing so much information into a short period of time. Now, this is part of a 4-part series by Daniela about HR. You can view the entire series as well as this video on LinkedIn, Facebook, the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce website, and also on YouTube. So thank you so much, Daniela. I'm looking forward to your next